I forgot to post this live. I forgot to post this live. Yay, fun. Go on Twitter and post this live. Now I just got to tweet from the ElseNerds site. The ElseNerds site. The ElseNerds site. Not gonna worry about this because no one is watching right now. Brr. All right, there we go. New tweet. All right, and begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of the wrestling show that I am doing here on YouTube. I am Gregor Sprague from the ElseNerds, and a forewarning, I may swear, I will definitely spoil things. So this is your warning on both fronts. Wow, what a big time since I last recorded a one of these episodes. We've had what 2 weeks. So it's been about 2-3 weeks since I recorded the last wrestling beta. And since then we've had a new pay-per-view happen. The Raw branded TLC, and we've had the first 2 episodes post TLC of WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown, or SmackDown Live as it's now called. But before I get into that, I want to get into some news. Because one of the things that they announced on Raw was that Survivor Series is basically sort of going the way of bragging rights again. For those of you guys who do not know, bragging rights was a co-branded pay-per-view that they had done during the first draft that they had, with the brand split after the WCW ECW invasion angle was finished. And it was basically, which brand is better, Raw or SmackDown? But in there, they've announced that all the championships are going to be basically are not going to be defended. Basically, what is going to happen is the champions are going to fight each other. So the big match, one of the big matches for Survivor Series, is the reigning, defending, undisputed Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. Sorry, I had to do the Paul Heyman voice. Versus the modern day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. And with this, there's news coming out that Vince McMahon wants a special guest referee for this match, and he's eyeing 2 people. He's eyeing Stone Cold Steve Austin. These are rumors, by the way. And he's also eyeing John Cena. Now, John Cena was the original, because this could be setting up a Cena versus Mahal match down the road. But the other ones, okay, so I guess there's three possibilities here. Or the other one could be The Rock. I This goes back to something that I've had issues with. And hey, Garley Bear, and yes, this is the show I was mentioning. Where I'm going to be talking about wrestling that I talked about earlier on the ElseNerds show that I recorded earlier this week. Um, but anyways, I I still have a problem with the fact that the WWE has on their what is has been called their flagship show their belt on a part timer. They've had their belt on a part timer for the past 3 years. They've had it on Brock Lesnar 2 years ago. They had it on Goldberg last year, or for a while, and now it is back on Brock Lesnar. Um, that sort of I'm upset with that because of the fact that it sort of makes this belt, because Brock Lesnar is a part timer and all that, it sort of in my eyes is diminishing the title because of the fact that we don't have this belt being defended every 30 days like they've done in stories before, where at least every 30 days their title has to be on the line. And all that. But going back to this article with the WWE, you know, special guest referee, either one of these options would be great. Seeing The Rock or Stone Cold. If they do either one, like if they do Stone Cold, he might not get involved as much, but I could see, The Rock doing something to where then he, starts a feud with either Brock or Jinder Mahal. But I don't know. We will see if this even comes to fruition. The next news story is there's been a rumor for a long time that Ronda Rousey could be joining the WWE. She made, for those of you guys who do not know, she made an appearance in Ring during WrestleMania 32 in San Francisco. I believe it was WrestleMania 32. And you see with that, she had this thing, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, she should join. She should join. She should join." And since then, we've had the Mae Young Classic, where one of the four horsewomen of MMA, Shayna Baszler, made it to the finals, and had great matches. I've talked about it before on ElseNerds about the Mae Young Classic, but the rumor is that the WWE is planning on doing for WrestleMania 34 the four horsewomen of MMA versus the four horsewomen of WWE. Now this would be an 8-woman tag with the teams being Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bayley, representing the four horsewomen of the WWE, versus Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, Jasmine Duke, and Marina Shafir. The challenge with this, though, would be the fact that right now only one of the four women of MMA is under a WWE contract. Shayna Baszler is under an NXT contract right now, and she's training at the Performance Center. Getting trained better and better and better. And Ronda Rousey's been coming in here and stuff and training, but I don't know. I'm excited to see this mainly because I feel like this could be, this could be a big thing. This could be a big match that they have happen. Because they've been talking about this for years since Ronda Rousey and all them the news started calling them the four horsewomen and all that. So, but I don't know. The next news, because where I am excited for Survivor Series, I am also excited for the NXT Takeover match. The NXT Takeover next one is going to be called War Games, and it will feature a it will feature the classic War Games style match. But what also we are getting is the NXT title being defended. The current NXT champion, Drew McIntyre, who has held it since he beat Bobby Roode back at the last NXT takeover during NXT Brooklyn 3 during the SummerSlam weekend. He will take on Andrade Cien Almas, who is a Mexican wrestler. I believe he used to wrestle in a mask, actually. He used to be a luchador. And the NXT general manager, William Regal, has granted this match because Almas has been on a winning streak with matches where he beat Joey Gargano, Johnny Wrestling, and Roderick Strong. And the contract signing is going to be taking place up in this upcoming match. So right now, the updated card for NXT War Games is the War Games match itself with the 3 teams to be announced, the NXT title match, Andrade Cien Almas versus Drew McIntyre, and an ab contest featuring the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Johnny Wrestling himself, Joey Gargano. And then the fatal 4-way for the vacant NXT Women's title because Asuka had an injury ending her streak. She vacated the title, and in that was when they pulled her up to Raw. But we have Kairi Sane, Ember Moon, Peyton Royce, and Nikki Cross all fighting for this. All with the exception of Kairi Sane here, because Kairi Sane is the winner of the Mae Young Classic. The other Peyton Royce is good, but you haven't seen much. But you've seen Nikki Cross and Ember Moon have killer matches with Asuka. We know that they're honestly. I haven't seen too much of Peyton Royce to say that she's ready for the next level, but all the other 3 of these women, I could say they're ready for the main roster already. And this is cool that they're going to be putting on. These are going to be like some hell of a matches here. But yeah, and the other bit of news that I had was the article that I just read. I combined the 2. But anyways, let's get into WWE TLC and then the review, and then Raw and SmackDown from this past week. Again, I'm going to cbssports.com where they have grades for the matches. The first one that I did not see was Sasha Banks versus Alicia Fox, where she defeated Alicia Fox via submission. This was during the kickoff show. I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of the Alicia Fox crazy like a fox gimmick that they got going on. Like I get it because she hasn't really had a gimmick. She's been a valet, she's been a manager, she's done a lot in WWE for over her tenure, over her career. But I feel like it's sort of like there's better out there for her. The surprise appearance by a Gino. But that being said, I did not see that match. Asuka opened up TLC with her match against Emma. This is the Asuka is the undefeated former NXT Women's Champion, and she's basically, when she came in after relinquishing her title on NXT, they started playing promos that she's coming, and then they said she's coming to TLC. That's when she's going to debut. And she debuted as a babyface. This is how she debuted in NXT, and it makes sense because I wasn't the biggest fan of her as a heel. Not saying she did a bad job as a heel or as the bad guy, but you have someone who's debuting with such. I mean, you take away the fact that people who have followed her, from around the world, know who she is and enjoy what she does and all that. You take into the fact that she has this big following. She's going to get cheered regardless. So if you're the WWE, what do? Put her in as a heel, or put her in as the face, as the good guy. And I think they did the right thing. I think what they could have done is have ramp her up and she's going to be the face, she's going to be a face, and then do a heel turn. But Emma wouldn't have been the good choice for that, as her opponent, because Emma's getting a push right now, but I would see this happening more if she were facing Sasha Banks or Bayley, than I would see with Emma. And this is no offense to Emma. It's just she hasn't been that, like, in these matches. And I feel part of it is due to WWE production. The producers and all that stuff just going, and we're not gonna do, we're not pushing her, we're gonna have her train more, even though she's debuted on the main roster. And then they did this weird promo with her being introduced as Emelina. She comes in for one match, or for not even a match, on stage, and then goes, forget this, and walks out, and then has all these promos coming back of her being as Emma. It was a solid match. Now, one of the things that I do not get, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the gimmick of the guy formerly known as Elias Sampson is now just being called Elias, where it's this almost like they're trying to do an old Jeff Jarrett gimmick of, with him playing the guitar and all this stuff. Like, I hate to say it, but I liked the Drifter gimmick that they had before, where he's just like this loner guy, because he's still sort of doing that gimmick now. It's just now I'm gonna play you a tune. It's like, no one cares, dude. I don't think there's ever been a musician since the Honky Tonk Man that people have cared about in the WWE. And I'm including The Rock in that one. The Rock, a lot of people don't realize, he had a little bit of time where he would play the guitar. Like, it didn't last long, but it happened. So they did 3 spots throughout the pay-per-view where he's trying to, do a performance, and he keeps getting interrupted by Jason Jordan, which led to a match on down the road, which was solid. I honestly think that Jason Jordan needs a bigger push. Since breaking up American Alpha to bring him over to Raw to be Kurt Angle's illegitimate son, it sort of feels like he's now just sort of here doing, mid-card matches. The next one, and I was excited because we actually got 2 cruiserweight matches on the pay-per-view, and neither of them were in the kickoff. And yes, actually, Garley, Jeff Jarrett is still around. He was doing another promotion here in America called TNA. He actually founded it with his father, I believe. And then created the promotion Global Force Wrestling, which they combined with TNA, well, now Impact Wrestling, for a while. He's still doing wrestling stuff. I would honestly love to see him rejoin the WWE, because I mean he is a great talent and all that. But anyways, back to the cruiserweights here. Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann defeated Jack Gallagher and the Brian Kendrick. This was actually a really great match. Like I mentioned before, we actually had 2 cruiserweight matches. I feel like the cruiserweight division does need a little bit of revitalization from some more cruiserweights, because we only have, I think, 13 wrestlers in there, and we only ever really get to see 6 of them at a time, is what from what it seems like. No, like they did things good with, bringing Neville in as the cruiserweight, and then having him being the king of the cruiserweights for a while, but I feel like that overplayed its course, and it's sort of why he left or is taking a break from WWE. And then they got Enzo Amore over there for other reasons. But all in all, this was a solid match. I enjoyed this match. I want to see more from Cedric Alexander, actually from all 4 of these guys: Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, Jack Gallagher, and the Brian Kendrick. The next match was the women's championship match, which I found weird because they did more promotion for Asuka debuting than their own women's champion defending her title. And it was Alexa Bliss, the champion, versus Mickie James. They kept talking about with Mickie James this big history. It would have been 7 years since she held the championship in the WWE, and her being one of the few women to hold the former women's championship, the Divas championship, and now the Raw women's championship. Which I think she would be the only one to hold that honor. And honestly, I'm gonna put it this way: I do not mean it to sound sexist or anything like that, but for a woman who has a 3-year-old, she's and is older. I'm not exactly sure how old she is, but it's like she's like in her 30s or something like that, 30s or 40s. She keeping her own. She's been holding her own against these younger girls and all that. And I'm honestly, I'm liking this. I'm liking the fact that we are seeing this. The other match, like I mentioned, the cruiserweight championship of the champion Kalisto versus Enzo Amore. This is sort of leading to a problem I'm having with the cruiserweights. The people who are getting the notification, a lot of the buzz, are established WWE wrestlers. You had Neville when he came back from injury, was killing it on essentially on the main roster. Then they bring in Enzo Amore, but they bring in Enzo Amore because they see the talent that he has, but he just pisses off everyone. Like he has a lot of backstage heat on him still, from people, because apparently the Enzo Amore that we see on TV is the Enzo Amore that is backstage. And then now with bringing in Kalisto, which makes sense because Kalisto is a smaller wrestler, and he was on SmackDown, and it just sort of makes sense, bring him over so that we have, more talent. But it's like they're not really giving these guys who were in the Cruiserweight Classic a chance on the main roster, with all of their, in front of the big lights here. But with that, you saw Enzo Amore defeating Kalisto. Now this next match is something that was really awesome, because this match originally was the Demon King Finn Balor versus the Bray Wyatt's sister Abigail. Basically the alternate personas of both Finn Balor and Bray Wyatt. But Bray Wyatt is he is dealing with the mumps, him and Roman Reigns, which changed 2 of the matches here. So instead they get AJ Styles, who I will add was touring with the WWE with the SmackDown Live brand down in South America. They bring him up. I feel like I feel like WWE made the best call with this, because you have two guys who've never, I don't think they've ever faced each other before, but they have history together. You have Finn Balor, who as Prince Devitt was one of the founding members of the Bullet Club in New Japan. I will throw up the 2 suite. Oh wait, cease and desist. The 1 suite for the Bullet Club. And you have, when he got hired by the WWE, they replaced him as leader with AJ Styles. This match was awesome. I want to see them do a series of matches, in all honesty. Um, you have, you ended. This is one of those matches that I feel so good. And Finn Balor hit his coup de grace finisher for the pin to win the match. It was one of the stiffest, and the article even says it was a stiff one. This is one of the stiffest ones I've seen him do, and he's put on killer matches with Kevin Owens and other wrestlers before, in NXT. And I'm just like, was that like, I honestly thought, okay, was that planned? Did AJ say hit me with a stiff one or something? Um, or what? But the match ended, and as the show of respect, you see Finn Balor, instead of going to, shake the hand like he obviously does with AJ, he helps him up and does one of these, gives him the 2 suite. You see them both do the 2 suite in the middle of the ring as they show, they show their camaraderie. The audience loved it. I'm not gonna lie, I was laying in my bed watching the pay-per-view on the TV behind me, and I went and threw my hand up. I'm like, 2 sweets. I didn't say it out loud though, because other people were in the house, and I didn't want them to be going, "What the fuck you doing?" The next match, as I mentioned before, was Jason Jordan versus Elias. This was just, it seemed like it was a little bit of a throwaway match. And in a way it was, because WWE, what they've been doing is they've been pushing 2 big main events. You have the first one, which this one in this case was the AJ Styles versus the Demon Finn Balor, and then the TLC match. And then the match in between those two, usually it's that little dip to calm you down before they bring more excitement. Which it was, in all honesty. And this is where I wish we could see better from both of these guys, because I feel like they have the capability of doing better, but yet we don't really see it. But this brings me to the main event, because like I mentioned before, this was supposed to be the reunion of the Shield. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, but Roman is out because he also has the mumps. And so, this is going to be them versus The Miz, Cesaro and Sheamus, The Bar, Braun Strowman, and the returning Kane, who I don't know if he's actually a politician now or not, but Lesnar was running for mayor of a Tennessee town. Not actually Kane, but his, the wrestler who plays Kane, Glenn Jacobs, obviously. But Kurt Angle, makes his in-ring return, WWE in-ring return. He hadn't been in a WWE ring for 11 years in this match. And boy, good Lord Almighty, this was a great match. The whole thing with it being a handicap match, with this being a tables, ladders, and chairs match. There were a whole bunch of different spots that they hit in here. Like you see, gosh, this is one of the things where I do not agree with CBS Sports' scores here because they give gradings and all these. And again, I will link to it in the show notes. But I don't agree with that at all. They give it a D plus. No, this was an A match. This was a great A match for me. You like, yeah, did it go on for a while? Yes. Yes, it did. But the spots that they had in here, with the the team of the Miz, the Miz, the Bar, uh Kane and Braun Strowman, where they broke down, where you at one point you see everyone. Well, actually, not even that. You see Kane, and I thought about this as I saw the, and it's typical with how they do the setup for the pay per view. They've done this for the past times. They actually hang chairs like on a string or on a cable, and you have just a bunch of folding chairs going down. And they did like 6 stripes, like 3 on one side, 3 on another. I'm sitting there, I'm like, in the beginning of the pay per view, I'm like, I bet you someone's gonna pull those down because like I was there thinking like, well, what would that look like? Sure enough, Kane chokeslams Braun Strowman in the gap between the stage and the announce table because it's a Raw pay per view. The Raw announcers are up by the stage, and then he's sitting there, and bam, just made for a great moment. I look at that and I go, all right, fine. And then of course Braun Strowman, which is again the reason why I respect the guy as an athlete. I do not like this gimmick that he has of the monster among men because to me it just screams no sell. It's a guy who does a lot of no selling. But this in the match you have Braun, after this he gets up and he starts fighting Kane because they're pissed off at each other, and then you see all 4 other members of his team beating the shit out of Braun Strowman, throwing him in a dumpster, and then they push the lever and he's injured from the compactor and all that stuff. And then escorted out of the arena. This is also before he had, or after he had, power bombed Kurt Angle through a table where they brought him to the back, and then he came back out. Angle slam on Sheamus and Cesaro, doing Sheamus on the stage, and then Cesaro through a table that was sitting there at the edge, and then helping win the match by doing Roman Reigns' job in a triple power bomb on the Miz, I believe. But all in all, I liked it. But that's not where this is going to end for this. No, because the next night, WWE Raw, they kick things off by saying, hey, Kurt Angle comes out, it's like, hey, thank you guys for all the applause, all the support. But let's not look at TLC. Let's look ahead to Survivor Series, where he made the announcement of all the champions fighting each other. So you have the Usos from SmackDown Live versus the Shield of Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. You have the Intercontinental title or champion, The Miz, facing the United States champion, Baron Corbin. The Raw Women's Champion, Alexa Bliss, facing the SmackDown Live Women's Champion, Natalya. And then the big one, which I thought they did this a little too early, especially since they had, Jinder Mahal did the challenge on the previous episode of SmackDown. This was supposed to be the does Brock Lesnar accept? Well, guess what? He accepts, and then they do a promo afterwards. They do a promo, towards the end of the show. But the Universal Champion versus the WWE Champion, Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal, as I mentioned before in the news segment. And I look at that alone, and I'm like, that's a good pay-per-view. Then they add for the second time, since they've done the brand split, the second annual Team SmackDown versus Team Raw Survivor Series match. And then we see what seems to be some playful banter between Kurt Angle, the Raw general manager, and the commissioner of SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon. Because we also see on Raw AJ Styles coming out, you know, to be in a tag match with oh, I am blanking with who he was wrestling with. Um oh, was it Finn Balor? Or no, it was with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, or not Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose. And you have um and this honestly was just great. I love that match. I love seeing that match. Um I love the memes that I'd seen afterwards of, this is there was a meme of AJ Styles, the face that runs both places. Um, and I realize this is the wrong results page. This is from back in October 9th. Um, but you get, oh, sorry, and I forgot one other match that they announced. They announced not only a men's elimination match, but a women's 10 woman tag team match, 5 women from Raw versus 5 women from SmackDown. In there, we've got apparently we have from the SmackDown, the last kicker, Becky Lynch, Carmella, uh, I'm blanking, Tamina, Charlotte Flair, and Naomi versus Alicia Fox. We don't know who else is going to be there. Um, but this whole thing, this like pay per view, and there's still more to come because the cruiserweight title is probably going to be defended there again, with Enzo Amore facing Kalisto or whoever else. Um, there's rumors of the rematch between um AJ Styles and Finn Balor, which I would love to see. Um, there's this has all been hype, and we're still 4 weeks out, 3 4 weeks out from Survivor Series. It ends because it was going to end with Kurt Angle revealing the Raw men's lineup. Well, Shane McMahon, in the typical Shane McMahon fashion, because he did this before when he was the quote unquote owner of WCW back in 2001. Also, the last time that they had that he the first time he probably had met AJ Styles, who was working with WCW at the time, comes in and has a whole bunch of SmackDown superstars. We see the New Day, Chad Gable, Ty Dillinger, Becky Lynch, Natalia, a whole bunch of the SmackDown stars just going around and beating up a lot of SmackDown superstars. It made for a great moment. Um, we go to SmackDown where we have everyone's thinking, oh, is this going to be the rebuttal and all that? We don't see it, but I look at this and I go, they're setting up for great, and they're setting up early for this. I will add. Um, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what the grades are going to be. I don't even know if they're going to announce any more matches. Um, I am excited for Survivor Series, and I would have loved to have seen championship matches, but I'm excited to get this champion versus champion thing. I sort of like that a little bit better than, oh well, we're gonna have um like like just all like 8 titles being defended, because you don't necessarily need that here. But yeah, all that being said, um, Survivor Series is November 19th, I believe. Um, from Houston, Texas, at the Toyota Center, I believe. And like they're actually going to do, I think they're going to do 4 days in a row there. They're going to do the NXT Takeover Survivor Series, and then the following Raw and SmackDown from Houston. So that should be awesome. But this has been the wrestling show. I want to thank Growly Bear for watching live. Um, I want to thank everyone else who is watching after the fact. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want me to talk about next time on, or how often you want me to see me do this. Do you want me to do it after every pay per view? You want me to do it every week? You want me to cover something else besides WWE? Maybe Impact Wrestling or New Japan or whatever. Let me know. You could tweet me at that Gregor, or you could email mail@ElseNerds.com. Those are the 2 easiest ways to get a hold of me. And with all that being said, see ya.